Hello, good morning, everyone. You're welcome to the Maritime Africa show for the May 15th program. Our theme for today is the place of women in the maritime sector in Africa. Today, women present only 1.2% of global seafarer workforce as per the Bitco and ICS 2021 Seafarer Workforce Report. This presents a positive trend in gender balance with a report stimulating 24,095 women serving as seafarers, which is a 45.8% increase compared with the 2015 report. Today, I have with me four remarkable, wonderful women on the platform as we are going to be having them come up live. These women are stakeholders, these women are actors, these women have been in the industry for over 10 to 15 and even 30 years. And we're super excited to have them with us in Maritime Women and Maritime Africa to present and to mentor, tutor, and guide other and younger women in the maritime sector. We also want to thank our partners in the show, Maritime Women in Maritime. From the IMO, we have their logo on, we have WIMA Africa, we have WIMOCA, we have WIME, that's Women in Maritime and Energy. We have Zoe Maritime platform also. Today with me are special women in the maritime industry, and I'm super excited because why they come online, I'm going to be talking about them in a specific way. Today we have on the panel list Mrs. Awa Kamara, we have Mrs. Chizoba, and we have Mrs. Etosa. Thank you very much, Ma, for being on this platform with us. And I want to take the time to thank all of our audiences from all over Africa. We're excited that you have taken the time to be here with us. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So right about now, we're getting on the show. We're getting on the show. I mean, please, can you introduce? Thank you very much, Mrs. Kamara. Thank you for accepting to be a panelist on this show. I've heard so much about you. It's so exciting to finally put a face, a visual face to your personality. Thank you. Thank you for being here. So can we have you introduce yourself and tell our audience what you have been about? So I saw something very remarkable about your personality, but I'm going to hold that till the show goes on because I have a lot of flattery for you today.
Thank you, Mr. Obama. My name is Awa Kamara, Mrs. Bousso. I am Senegalese. Yeah, I work with Maritime Administration here in Senegal. And
awesome.
Yeah, okay. I work a lot with women in maritime sector, and I create maritime women in order to help women in to have high level in maritime education. I think it's a very important aspect for women to be a big challenge in this sector.
Exactly. The women in this industry are the most challenged. I think we are the most challenged women in the industry because the industry says it is only for men. And we are proud women in the industry, and we are ready to be all that we need to be to get this
Mhm.
industry running. And I'm super
Yeah.
excited to see women like myself
Mhm.
in the industry.
Yeah.
It gets my blood boiling and gets me energized. So,
Mhm.
what do you think about the topic today? The place of women
Yeah.
in the maritime sector in Africa. We know
Yeah.
that.
The topic. Yeah, we know that women are not very representative in the maritime sector because men dominate. It's
Mm,
why today we are here to try to explain and to try to help women to focus on maritime career. To say it's very important to do for women to have their place in this sector. Yes, I think, and in my part, I will try to show what is the challenges and what we can do at the end in order to keep networking and finding group who have some wish. Yeah,
yeah. Thank you very much for that. And
yeah.
today on the show, Mrs.
Mhm.
Awa Kamara is going to be speaking to us about the challenges women face in the maritime sector in Africa. So we had this
Yeah.
show specifically designed for African women, but the
Mhm.
topic is super related to every woman in the maritime sector. So if you're here on the show and you are not an African, we are especially welcoming you to the show. So Mrs. Kamara, can you get on to your presentation today as you educate our women about the challenges
Mhm.
in the
Thank you.
maritime
Thank
sector
you.
and how they can maneuver every single situation they see and come out victorious? Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we will see the place of women in the maritime sector, and in my part, I will concentrate to show the challenges facing women in the maritime sector in Africa. And to do this, my presentation will follow this plan: the introduction, analysis of the place of women in the maritime sector, and after, what is the challenges facing women, and the African Union work, what women's initiative do in the African sector, and to conclude. We know that gender equality is a fundamental human right. International recognized are essential for sustainable development, peace, and prosperity. However, discriminatory practice persists around the world, and particularly in maritime sector. Maritime sector has traditionally been dominated by men. According to the International Transport Work Federation, women currently make up only about 2% of the global maritime workforce. After our analysis, we will focus largely to the challenges faced by women in the maritime sector. To do this now, first, let's analyze the place of women in maritime sector. Statistics shows that only 2% of seafarers are women. Only 22% of the poor workforce is female, and only 35% of shore workers are women. 76% of women in maritime occupation have just administrative post, junior, unprofessional position, only this. And in our African societies, the main focus on gender has been limited in the inclusion of women. If we hear inclusion of women, it's just women participation. And if we take example in the fishing sector mainly work as fisher, men mainly work as fisher, and it's women 35% who process and sell fish. The majority of management and senior management position in the maritime industry are held by men. Maritime environment is male dominated, and women inclusion into maritime sector remain a challenge, a big challenge nowadays. There are a number of cultural, structural, and workplace barriers that run the maritime environment unattractive to many women. Now, when we hear challenge in this sector, we can repeat all questions that a lot of men say. Can she handle the pressure and irregular working hours? And to answer this, let's see before the challenge. What is challenges for women? Workplace. Workplace is a big challenges for women in maritime sector. Why? Yeah, because in some structure of ships is not for women. For example, fishing boat. A lot of fishing boat women cannot be there. And in some place, there are not separate washroom for men and women, and also security for women at sea. Security for women at sea, what we mean by this, for example, if all staff of sea are men, only one woman at sea, to be there for 1 month, there are a lack of security for women. And also the lack of model is a big problem. Family and motherhood also is one of challenge for women, because maternity is a limited factor for women. Yeah, women cannot handle motherhood and certain types of career in the same time. And for some women, when they have baby, women don't tend to return to the sector after leaving for maternity, and it is a big problem to access on board for some position like captain or chef engineer. All this is a challenge. And another big challenge is the industry mindset. We know that the industry tradition and mindset is just it's for men, it's not for women. And also the lack of the industry lack of experience in hiring women, it's a problem, because at first time it was not for women, and today they need a lot to do a lot of things, to have a lot of financial support for some companies to take women on board. There are also risks of sexual harassment, as I said. The challenge of insubordination from men employment is a problem, and also the lack of awareness and information. All this is a barrier for women in maritime sector. After showing the big challenges, we will say that motivate for the women to come and give their quote in maritime industry is very important. And the more women are visible in the maritime industry, the more we can inspire other women to join the sector. The African Union. And to do this, what the African Union? The African Union, we know, is leading the way on the continent. And this year in Rwanda, in March, African women toward African blue economy, and in Addis Ababa also, and the theme of African Union Summit is women empowerment in Africa. This is a step, yes, a step toward achieving the goal of the African Union 2063 agenda. The 2360 agenda, uh, um, as we can say that Africa's triple ocean economy, which is 3 times the size of its landmass, shall be a major contributor to continental transforming and growth. Now, what women in maritime are doing for women in the industry. Yes, because if we see the challenges, we see that we have a lot of barrier. Now we should understand what women are doing. And to do this, we are not going to develop a lot, but we say that all above are ways that shipping could improve in order to become more attractive, visible, and open to women, especially to young women in general. We can find several associations and initiatives, as I said before, in maritime that aim to promote diversity maritime workforce. To this, we have maritime women, we have WIMOCA, we have WIMA. All these association is here in order to improve the women in this sector. Now we are at the end of our presentation, but we can say just we will keep networking and finding group. We have same wish. We have to encourage women to join the maritime sector. We certainly need the support of the men as well as companies. Two, we are positive we achieve this goal in near future. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We arrive at the end of our presentation. Thank you.
This was a super presentation. This sub team had focused on the obstacles that women in maritime facing and overcoming on a daily basis, and the succession of women from generation to generation has been remarkable. We have women in the industry that have been on for over 40, 50 years. It means women have been there, but we have not been seen. We've gone through gender discrimination, we've gone through gender oppression, and we've gone through many other kind of harassments apart from the sexual harassment, which we don't even like putting up. But we're super excited that we are still staying strong with we are also very excited about the culture of this organizations in the maritime industry that are helping women strive through and win no matter what the challenges has been. I want to also thank you again, Mrs. Awa Kamara. This was a beautiful presentation, and we're going to get back to you just after other presentation. Right about now, we have our second sub team for today's webinar, and it's on the initiative to promote gender equality in the maritime sector in Africa. This sub team of the maritime. It focuses of the efforts made by government. It focuses on civil society organization and private sector actors to promote gender equality in the maritime sector in Africa. It could also highlight, and it will highlight the good practices and innovation and innovative programs that have been set to ensuring that they are successful promoting of inclusions for women in the maritime sector. Right now on the show, our second panelist is Mrs. Chizoba Ayinka. Let's welcome Mrs. Chizoba Ayinka to the show.
Thank you,
Thank you
Obima.
very much.
Thank you. Thank
Thank you
you
very much.
for having me on this platform.
It's our pleasure, Mark. We were actually looking forward to having you on the show for a very long time. I didn't
Thank
tell
you.
you that.
Thank you.
Seriously, thank you. Thank you so much for all you do in the maritime industry, and we're super excited about today. And we know that you are the best person to talk about what the efforts of the government and civil society organization and private sector have been doing for the past 2 decades to the maritime industry to ensure that there is gender equality in the maritime sector. So let's have Mrs. Chizoba on the presentation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Obima, for having me on this show. I will start by introducing what we stand for. My name is Mrs. Chizoba Anyika. I'm a Deputy Director with the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. I'm also the Secretary of Women's International Shipping and Trading Association, Western Nigeria, which is a part of an international women group in the maritime sector that cuts across over 56 countries. Today is a day that I'm so excited to be part of. I will start by introducing the Women in Maritime and Energy Awards, which is a platform that is built to recognize women in the sector, to decorate women in the sector. On the 31st of March, we celebrated the second edition of the Women in Maritime and Energy Awards, which is just one of the platforms to escalate what the women are doing in the sector, in addition to the work that the government is doing across Africa. We feel that women are not celebrated enough, and there needs to be an advocacy platform to encourage the women to promote the achievements of women in the sector who have done so much to advance the sector. The continent is doing a whole lot in line with the International Maritime Organization. The International Maritime Organization that is the special agency that takes care of everything maritime and global maritime. Africa is not an exception, and Africa will not work in silo. Now, over the years, women have been doing a whole lot in the sector, in the fisheries, in the offices, on board the vessels. Women are doing a whole lot. However, the negative news of the women with regards to piracy is what we're seeing on the internet, that women keep armories for the pirates. However, at the background, women are doing a whole lot. What is the government doing about gender equity in the sector? We know that traditionally, the maritime sector is said to be a male-dominated industry. However, the women are coming up. The moderator, Ms. Obima, has spoken about the percentage. If you check the data that we have online of the percentage of women on board vessels, the seafarers, the cadets that are on board the vessel, the women, the percentage that are working in the offices, I mean in the leadership positions, I believe that deliberate, purposeful action is being taken. However, we still have a whole lot to do. The government has a lot of policies to put in place continentally. We need to collaborate with one another and have a uniform way of escalating the work and what women are doing. International Maritime Organization has already set up African women in maritime to deal with issues and matters that pertain to women. The women's growth training, skill acquisition, women capacity development, access to technology, so many things that women need to do. Women naturally know how to multitask. You're a wife, you're a mother, you work in the office. Some of them take care of the cranes, we do heavy jobs, and yet most of them were unsung. So the Women in Maritime and Energy Awards finds it very, very important that the few women that are, shattering the glass ceiling needs a platform to be celebrated. Now, the SDG goals are there from the United Nations. We have the ACTA, we have the blue economy. We're talking about sustainable blue economy. We're talking about keeping our oceans. We have so many areas in the maritime sector that is quite untapped. We have the marine tourism area. We have ladies working in cruise boats. We ask ourselves, how many percentage of women are seafarers? How many of them are captains? How many of them are chief engineers? How many of them are chief officers? How many? Are they just being employed as cooks? Africa, it is time for us to arise. It is time for the government to come together, to look at ways to partner with one another, to look at ways to interface with each other, to look at ways to collaborate, form partnerships that will get a uniform code, a uniform policy that will take care of women. If it means giving the women quota in certain areas of the sector, we can actually give the quota to encourage women. If it's giving subsidized training for women in the sector, it is about time that the continent, the leadership, comes together. Then look at the quota. Then the women that needs to upscale their skills. If women are in a sector and they don't add up to what they already know, to be on the same, level playing ground as the men. You cannot be given a position just because you're a woman. Developing our competencies is very, very key for women to take up all the numerous opportunities that are bound in the sector. The maritime tourism area is untapped, but I believe that deliberate efforts, if we take steps, strategic plan, should look at ways, if possible, in training. I personally have had the opportunity of being trained by the Galilee Institute, which is called, I think the IMO brought them up to look at women in the government, to train them. We have so many of us that have been trained by Galilee Institute. Africa, we need to look at an institution that will separate women that are interested in getting all the skills that are required to make contributions, tangible contributions in the sector. We need to take deliberate steps to go to the schools, policies that will have to be you put them as part of the syllabus in primary schools, in the secondary schools, in the tertiary institutions, to make this, get them when they were young, let them get interested, let them see the investment opportunities, let them see the employment opportunities in the sector. I believe that Africa, we have a population of young ones. The youths in Africa, they are bound. There are so many of youthful energy in Africa. And we have the economy that is being sung all over the world. This is the time for Africa government to look at women's area, what women can do to contribute to the growth of the sector, the growth of sustainable blue economy, the growth of the seafarers. I know that government in Nigeria, I'm not the spokesperson for where I work. However, I know that my organization has taken deliberate steps to place women. We have quite a number, a good percentage of women that are working in my sector, in my organization, that are at the top. And I would like other organizations to emulate from what is happening in the Nigerian maritime sector when it comes to my own organization I can speak for. I am not empowered to speak on this platform regarding that, but I can see for sure you can visit and see for yourself what is going on. And then when it comes to seafarers training, I think my organization also has a platform for NSDP. And I believe that governments, through the African Administration of African Maritime Organization, should look at a way of discussing specifics with regards to the gender and gender equity. You cannot think that every one of us have the same capacity. We must look at maybe take a competencies audit of how many ladies are already in the sector where they are placed. You do a graph, we'll look at, get a professional to look at the audited document, the competencies of all the women that are already, look at the percentage of women that are working in the offices, the ones that are working in the offshores, the ones that are vessel owners, the ones that are playing in the marine field. Because when you talk about energy, you cannot totally separate the energy sector from the maritime sector. Because I know that so many of the jobs that are being executed in the marine field has to do with vessels. You need platforms like FPSOs, FSOs that are working. How many of the ladies are on the FSOs? How many of them are on FPSOs? How many of them are trained to take care of the vessels that are working? Aside from chandling and vendoring, taking food and water to the people that are working. How many of these women are actually vessel owners? We must do a competencies audit across Africa. However, I believe that the leadership, the organizations, the maritime administrators of Africa may need to come together and look at ways, not to discuss on general times, but to also look at ways, specific times to deal with the issue of the disparity and fill in the gap. They can use women that are trained to fill the lacuna that is already existing in the sector. Policies, deliberate policies, advocacy groups, people are doing a whole lot. I know WIMOCA is there, WIMA is there, WISTA, although it's an international body, is there. I serve in the WISTA Diversity Committee. I have been on the Diversity Committee for close to 4 years now, and a whole lot is being done with regards to diversity. Africa, it is time for us to arise. It is time for us to take deliberate steps to place the women in the boardrooms and the tables to discuss, to show their competencies. When it comes to access to technology, everything now in this sector is being digitized. What are we doing to ensure that in this digitization and automation of our work processes, what are we doing to ensure that the women take active part and play active roles in the digitization that is going on? Are they able to, let's say, when you get a simulation engine to train, are women able to operate these systems? Are women able to operate these systems? These were all the things that we really thought about. And we set up the Women in Maritime and Energy Awards, which we celebrated the second edition on the 31st March. A lot of women that are unsung have been on the platform from the first edition to this last one. The women in energy, the women in maritime. If we have more groups that will come up, women serving in committees should speak up. Women serving in different platforms should speak up. Women that have the resources, financial resources, should speak up. Educate, train. If there is inhibitions such as the finance, when it comes to starting up a business, maybe for entrepreneurs, women that have gone through that route should be able to mentor and coach the ones that are upcoming. We should be really exhibiting women, supporting women. So many of these women that have been through the system, that are maybe retired, what are you doing with your experience? I ask again, what are we doing with our experience for the retirees amongst us? Women supporting women, are we paying lip service to it? Across Africa, we have women. When it comes to the blue economy, there are so many women that are playing on that platform. The first blue economy event that was had, women played prominent roles. Are we having all these events to keep the books, the communique aside? We must push forward and take the further steps after the communicate. Take the further steps in looking at ways to implement all that have been discussed. When we join conversations such as this, and we write communique or any white paper regarding the outcome, the recommendation should not just be pushed under the table. The recommendation should be taken to the government. Government, I call that you take steps to include women in the boardrooms, include women in committees, where some of these recommendations will be brought to the table. The affirmative actions that are there, the quota system, what actions are we taking? Is it uniform? Are we still being very, the men, are they still being very hostile to the ladies on board the vessels? The vessel builders, are they making provision for bed space for women on board the vessels? Is it that some employers of labor, do they look at the women and say, oh, when they put up their advertisement, this role is not for a woman? I believe that when you continue to try the women, put them on the role, they will deliver. Women have the competence to deliver. Women have the ability to deliver. Women have the ability to multitask. Women have the ability, the ability to work twice more than their male counterparts, because they want to impress the people that employ them. So they work twice, because when you put some women in places like we have in the Nigerian Ports Authority, women have been in that port, leading the port, working twice harder to ensure that the port is stable, to ensure that the work goes on, to ensure that they drive the whole process, to ensure hitch-free operations in the port. These are women doing a whole lot. So I believe that we, with collaboration, with deliberate steps, with strategic plans, in the area of administration, in the area of management, in the area of diversity, in the area of access to funding, in the area of access to training, in the area of access to equal opportunities. Despite any form of disability, I believe that being a female, we are not disabled. Women should not be looked as if our place is in the kitchen, and our spouses must be able to support us enough to be able to work and be all that we need to be. If I don't have a supportive spouse, I wouldn't have gotten to the place I am in my career. So I will take this platform and I will also urge all the men to please support the women in your lives. Governments, please take deliberate steps to ensure that the women are part of in fact, they have a prominent role. Not that we continue to be invisible. Women cannot continue to be invisible. Policies that should imbibe equality, equity from schools should be looked upon, should be looked at. I believe that when we take purposeful steps and deliberately work on this, we will be able to say in the next 5 years that surely the advocacy of civil groups, the advocacy of women groups, the advocacy of all these platforms that will have the media, maritime media groups, the write-ups, the print media and the electronic media, all that they are speaking concerning women's inclusion in the system, in the maritime system. When we look in the next 5 years, we'll be able to say, of course, yes, the government is doing a whole lot. The percentage of women in the maritime sector has increased. The number of women on board vessels has gone up. The skills that women have in the system is upscaled. So women, as we continue to continually develop ourselves in training, let us also remember that we're not competing with the men. We are not competing with the men. We are just humans like the men. And we are saying that this sector has a lot of opportunities for women to play. We have opportunities for women to play, not just as fisherwomen, not just as cooks, but also as leaders that will speak in various boardrooms across the African continent. Thank you very much.
That was a pretty long one. Woo! Amazing. Thank you, Ma. Thank you so much.
My
Wow,
pleasure.
wow. So the initiative to promote the gender woman or women across Africa is a super idea. And I know that the government is on this matter from the blue economy to the greenish initiative. I know that the IMO is on this particular subject, and we know that in few years from now there will be lots of women in the maritime sector operating
Sure.
the same way men are operating in the sector or in the industry. We're super excited, and we would not say that there's not been progress. 2% is not nothing. Is something. Is something fantastic, and we know that there will be growth. There will be super growth in few years from now, and all of these obstacles will be taken away very soon. With a like-minded person and personnel like you, we know that the industry is in safe hands. Thank you so much, Mrs. Chidobaika. It was a
My
very
pleasure.
educative one from you.
Thank
So
you.
we will get on the show to our next panelist.
Good morning, dear viewers. We are sorry for this. We think that we have a problem with Mrs. Obima. Before we continue with her, I will introduce the next speaker. So I think that for this webinar, we've had already two speakers, and now we still have two others who are going to present their topics. We have Mrs. Oritsematosan Edodo Emore, sorry for the name, and Mrs. Tony Aujula Oyeleke from Maritime Women Nigeria. So, Mrs. Edodo, good morning, Mrs. Edodo.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you clearly. Very happy to have
Okay.
you with us
Okay.
this
Thank
morning
you.
for this webinar.
Yes.
So, can you introduce yourself to all the people who are
Okay.
listening to this program?
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Don't be frightened by the spelling of my name. It's quite easy. My name is Orishema Tosan Edodo Emore. I'm an international
Okay.
maritime lawyer. I practice in Lagos, Nigeria, and I am also the president of Women in Maritime of West and Central Africa, Nigeria branch. So it's a
Okay.
great pleasure to be at this event. We're also super excited that we have been invited here, and I've been given the task of talking about how women have also become leaders in the maritime sector, in spite of the several challenges. And I'm glad to continue. I'd like to start by
Okay, a minute. Okay, we think that we have Obima. Okay, no problem. But I will let you do your presentation, and after that, she will come back for the last.
Okay. I would like to start with figures from the African Development Bank. And according to the African Development Bank, Africa has the largest percentage of women entrepreneurs in the world. And that is 25.9% of women in Africa are in the process of starting a business, or they are actually doing, carrying on a business, and also in leadership position. And in the maritime sector, of course, African women, and I will use Nigeria as a test case. African women are beginning to hold their own in the blue economy. Now, the blue economy has been described as a new frontier in Africa. It's been said to be the African Renaissance. And why is it said to be that? Of course, because Africa stands in a very favorable geographical position in which it can harness all the resources of the blue economy. Why is that? Africa is an island continent. It is surrounded by 2 oceans and 2 seas. In the north, it has the Mediterranean Sea, and in the northeast, it has the Red Sea. In the west, the Atlantic Ocean is there, and also in the southeast, the Indian Ocean is there. So it's a continent that is actually surrounded by bodies of waters. And on top of that, it is also a continent that is watered by rivers, lakes, River Niger, Congo, Benue, all of those, Zambezi. So it just means that with concerted efforts to man the resources of Africa's oceans, seas, rivers, and lakes, then the blue economy would transform the continent. And of course, in transforming the continent, the role of women is super important. To start with, 90% of Africa's international trade, import and export, is conducted by seas. And this means that this translates, of course, into trillions of dollars that is ready to be poured into the African economy. And this to stimulate growth. This means, of course, that it is very important that African women be included in all of these super resources flowing in the blue economy. Are we doing this? Well, for the time being, we could say that African women are not gaining as much as they should, as they ought to. But even with the reality on ground, we have some women that are doing well. And what we want to do is celebrate those women and encourage African institutions to support women. And let me start by I'll use Nigeria as a test case also, because I am here and because the examples abound here. And we would like such examples to be translated in other parts of the country, of the continent. Now, the women who are taking the bull by the horn, we have in Nigeria somebody called Princess Vicky Hastrop, who is the executive vice chairman of the ENL consortium. She's a port terminal operator. She's doing well, and on top of that, she's also the president of the I think Sea Terminal Operators Association of Nigeria. She's doing well, and she has been heading her company for a long time. And then we also have Margaret Orakusi, who lately has become of blessed memory. She was running her own company called Mobod. She was the head of the Mobod shipping company, and also a one-time president of the Nigerian Trawlers Owners Association. Of course, today also, we have people like Bernadette Okonkwo, who is now the president of the Nigerian Trawlers Owners Association. These are women who are making waves in the industry. In addition to that, we also have Uju Ifejika, who is the MD of Managing Director of Britannia U, which is both a maritime and oil exploration company. She's doing well in the industry. Now, these women that I've just mentioned are practical stakeholders in the maritime industry in Nigeria. They have gone out, they have set up their company, they are competing with their male counterparts, and they're getting the job done, and getting the job done very well. Now, when we come to the maritime aspect of the armed forces, we have Rear Admiral Jamila Malafa, who is the first female Rear Admiral in the Nigerian Navy. In fact, in 2017, she and another of her colleagues called Christy Okpara were the first women to be promoted to the level of Commodore. And come today, Jamila Malafa has just retired as the first female Rear Admiral of the Nigerian Navy. So that is a woman in the maritime military who is doing well. Now the question is, although these women are doing so well, they're championing the cause of the industry, they're doing excellently in their companies and in their professions, what we want is a replication of these people all over the continent. Can you imagine if more women are running maritime and oil and gas companies, more women are heading fishing companies, or more women are heading port terminal operations all over the continent? That will galvanize the development of the maritime industry in the continent. As we celebrate these women who have made it, who have made a headway, I think that we need to talk to the governments of African nations that they have to be deliberate in drawing more women out to develop the maritime industry. And this comes with deliberate policy or legislative instruments that make it easy for women to access education and access leadership positions and protect them from any kind of harassment, whether in the corporate world, on land, or whether they are even in vessels. But of course, women cannot aspire to leadership positions if they are not supported, if they are not supported by the institutions and by the government. So it is time for African countries to wake up that in order to develop the blue economy in our continent, in order to take advantage of the natural positioning of the continent that is washed by seas and oceans and lakes and rivers, then the African countries have to make a deliberate effort. Perhaps we can start from the maritime administrations. Now, African countries, African maritime administrations come together almost every year to deliberate on the maritime policies of the continent and how to move forward. Perhaps it is time for them to take this as an issue, that the leadership of women in the maritime industry must be on the front burner. Why? Because women according to the United Nations Population Index, women form approximately half the population. And if you translate that into business, that means that women should head at least 50% of the businesses that we see in the maritime industry. And so long as this is not a reality that we see on ground, then we require concerted efforts to make this reality. to improve on this reality and move the cursor forward so that more women, we can have 10 Uju Ifejikas in the continent. We can have 10 Princess Hastrops in the continent. We can have replica of people like Margaret Orakusi in the continent. And we can have people like Fumi Folorenshaw, who by herself set up the African Ship Owners Association, which is galvanizing African people into ship owning. Of course, we need more women owning ships all over the continent, not only in Nigeria. So this is something that should be a takeaway from this meeting, that it is our call for our governments to be deliberate about positioning women in the maritime industry and directing them to leadership positions. Thank you very much.
Wow, this was super amazing. Thank you very much for being so detailed. Thank you for being so detailed. Seriously, this
Thank you.
was an amazing presentation. We're so glad to
Thank you.
have your permission to be on this show, Ma. And there are a lot of questions for you, but we're going to come back to that while we introduce
Okay.
the fourth panelist, Mrs. Soniawo Jola Onyeleke, JP. We are super excited to have you. And we heard few great things about you, but this is a media platform, so we're just going to curtail so we don't blow things out of proportion. Thank you so much for coming on this show with us. And you look so beautiful this morning. It's afternoon already.
Thank you. Same as you.
So
You look so
can we have you
beautiful.
quickly introduce yourself to our audience?
Thank you, Hopima. You look as beautiful too. I'm Oluwatoyin Abujola Oyeleke. I own a clearing and forwarding firm, which is custom broker, and the populace call us clearing and forwarding. I'm a member of WISTA, Women in Maritime Nigeria, Women in Maritime Africa Nigeria chapter. I'm a member of WISTA. I'm a member of ANALCA, Association of Nigeria Licensed Customs Agents. Thank you all for joining this visual presentation, and thanks for being with us. I'll be presenting to you the place of a woman in the maritime sector, while I specify on working conditions for women in the maritime sector. I will delve into the significances, the challenges, and the potential solutions. I will not take much of our time as my co-panelist has really done justice to it. Sorry, pardon about that. As we all know that traditionally, maritime sector is male-dominated sector. In my own perception, I used to say every man in the maritime sector is a man. Every woman in the maritime sector is a man because of the level of insecurity and discrimination. It will interest us all to know that entrepreneurship and working conditions in the maritime sector in Africa does not seem palatable as it sounds. Maritime is connected with sea, especially seaborne trade or naval matters. The maritime sector, as we all know, aggregates larger percentage in the total GDP in Africa economy. Statistics reveal productive participation of women in the maritime sector in Africa. Are women paid back in their own coin? Women are faced in challenges in the maritime sector, especially in their working conditions, like factors I can mention, like the social, cultural factors, which we can find the gender stereotypes from that. Seafarers are prone to risk working conditions. Who are the seafarers? Seafarers are individuals that work on sea. These individuals are prone, especially the women, they are prone to a lot of risky working conditions. They don't have access, most of the seafarers don't have access to accommodation in the vessel. They don't have access to their own privacy in the vessel, whereby it can lead to sexual harassment. They don't have access again to technical sections, which means they are lack of training. They lack training. When it's time to teach them something, or when it's time for them to be trained, they are treated as with stereotypes. I have heard a seafarer say to me herself that all the things she knows as when she was talking to me, she had to force men to teach her, but that whenever it's time to talk to learn or to acquire knowledge, women are being boycotted. For her to have said that, it shows that she's being pained, and I think that is a big challenges that we have to face. Then we talk about cultural attitudes. The cultural attitudes, yes, is one of the factors that is affecting the conditions of women in the maritime sector in Africa. How do I establish that? Women who participate in maritime sector are seen as unconventional or inappropriate. This can lead to stigmatization, and as a result of no acceptance for women in the maritime sector, it can start giving women a kind of thought, as in a negative thought in accepting position, or even want to train for such position. I will use myself as a case study. My Association of Nigeria Licensed Customs Agents, and like I've told you, I'm a clearing and forwarding agent. You will understand that in my sector, it's traditionally and physically male-dominated industry. Like we have the customs, majority of them are the men. We have the men too that are customs broker. So it's not easy for women to thrive in this kind of sector. I would want to say to you that since 1954, I am elected as the first woman to head a command. It wasn't easy for me. Most of the women would come to me outrightly and tell me they cannot have a woman to rule them. They have done a lot of things to do. They have challenged the constitution and gone to court. It doesn't have to get to this extent. Men should understand that it takes the right hand and the left hand to wash each other to make it clean. Women are created by God, and we should not be treated like trashes. I would again talk about education and training. Women are ready to learn. Women should be trained. Women in the maritime sector in Africa are ready to learn. They should be trained. We can see a lot of women in Africa, even in federal government agency. We can see how good they are doing. When a woman is given time, when a woman is permitted, when a woman is trained, it shows in their way of life. It shows in their character. It shows in their manner. It shows in their ways of doing things. As such, women should be allowed for training, to go for training. A lot of excuses will come. Men will be like, we could have nominated you for this training, but who will stay with the children? We could have nominated you for this training, but we feel you can develop your monthly period over there. Are the men responsible to ask us this question? But they ask us all of this question, or put them into place to put down the women. If all of this is challenged, I think women will do better, as we will do more better, unlike we are doing now. Unequal treatment of the seafarers too. The seafarers are not treated as same as the men in their own environment. Even there was a time that one of the federal government agency asked to introduce a crèche. Yes, in the maritime sector, a crèche that if women are coming to work, they should bring after their maternity leave. There is a crèche for them to drop their babies while they go to work and come back. I think that is fine. I think if we get more of that, it will be so nice for women. I have seen some company at the point of interview, they will be telling the women, "Are you sure you are not ready? You are not getting married so soon? Because if you are getting married so soon, it's going to imply you'll be getting pregnant so soon, and we wouldn't want all of that." Those are not too good for questions to be placed on interviews. This kind of questions can affect the development of women in the society, which we are clamoring against. As I said, I will not take much of your time. I will be talking again. We will now look again into the potential solutions. The potential solutions to this can like promoting equality and challenges in the maritime sector. At least all these challenges that I've made mention of should be deliberated upon. Then we look for, we provide a solution, right? And look at the challenges too. We improve access to training. We foster the support of, we have to look at fostering the support of women in the maritime sector and its environment. The policies to be implemented too are, we have to look at it before it's enacted to favor women. And what are those things that women too has to do to put things in place? Like if there is a guideline for this position or this office you are looking up to, the documents to be acquired for such position is it's like 5 years or 3 years, or if there is a stipulated guideline for that document, we should, for that office, sorry, we should make sure we attain such documents. We should make sure we attain those stipulations or guidelines. We shouldn't, like, I am a woman. If a woman is clamoring for anything, any position, we should make sure we deem it, we ourselves as deem it fit and merit that position. We shouldn't stage ourselves on, I'm a woman. No, it has to be merited. And we talk about ourselves too. Women should empower women. Let's empower ourselves. The mentor should mentor well. The ones we are seeing as our role model, and we urge them to do more than they are doing. They should please do more. My former my co-formalist panelist, sorry, has talked about some women in the maritime sector. She had not said anything wrongly about that, and she's right. We are looking up to them. If they are well empowered, if the government policies are not bringing them down, they will do more. And by then, women in maritime sector in Nigeria, especially in Africa, especially in Nigeria, we acquire more knowledge and interest in the maritime sector. And I will talk about a woman again. We should have good conduct. When we are in any society, we should be able to conduct ourselves very well. When we have good conduct, then we will be considered for good positions. When we have good conduct, then we will be called to the table. When we have good conduct among ourselves, then ideas will be put on the table for us to deliberate on. Then quotas will be put on the table for us to share. But if we are of bad attitude or bad conduct, it may not help. Above all, empowerment seems, as empowerment should be the key. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Stowey. Thank you so much for the detailed information on this webinar. We are very, very, very grateful that you took up this opportunity. I've learned a lot. I have learned a lot, from all that you have said thus far. We are going to move on to the next agenda on this webinar. As we should please have all the panelists on the live broadcast, please, Mr. Colors. So we have rolling questions, but before we get on to the questions, we want to thank all our audience from Senegal, Nigeria, to Togo, and all over the regions in Africa. We want to say thank you for keeping up with us on this broadcast. We have a few questions, but I'm going to be throwing, before I get to the audience questions, I'm going to be throwing major questions to our audience. As regarding the negative effect of the challenges that women are facing in the maritime industry, I was actually speaking to a stakeholder, and she told me, she said, it would be very wonderful if the negative challenges are not put out there to discourage the younger women from getting into the industry. And I was like, the people should know what the truth is or are, so that when they are coming into the industry, they know what to expect and what not to expect. Ma, I'm going to particularly throw this question to Mrs. Tozer. Ma, what do you think about the negative impressions about the challenges that women are facing in the maritime industry? Should we portray it out there and scare the rest of the younger women that are trying to get into the industry, or we should do otherwise? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's very interesting. Now, we're talking about life here, and we're talking about reality. So the reality on ground is that women are facing these challenges, and it's not something that we should hide under the carpet. Women are facing these challenges, and it's important that we admit that they are facing the challenges, so that we can let the whole world know, and then we can channel resources to solving the problem. And of course, women coming into the industry, it's important for them to know that this is what they're coming into. If we do not bring out these challenges, then I think that you could safely charge us with false pretenses. No, we're not pretenders. We're real people working in a real environment, facing real challenges. So that a person who is coming to the industry already knows that this is what they are facing. And of course, it would be because they are interested in entering the industry. Of course, even though we are facing these challenges, look at the women that I named. There are still women who are rising up to the situation. So I think that the thing is, put out the information, but we should state clearly that there is nothing to be afraid about, because there are women who are succeeding. And on top of that, there are women's organizations who are keen in mentoring. For example, WIMOCA, where I'm the president, we're keen on mentoring, matching young women with experienced women, so that the young women do not have to go through the difficult path that the experienced women went through. There's no need to invent the wheel. The wheel is invented already. So what we want is to help the younger women to grow in the industry, to make more women come. So we must continue to sensitize, whether or not we are facing difficulties. We must continue to sensitize. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma, for that. Thank you very much. I must put an applaud to this answer. Thank you so much, Ma. So I'm going to throw the next person to Mrs. Awa. Mrs. Awa, where should these women go to? The younger women, a lot of them would have gone to their company, rather, they would have gone to their company and they probably did not get the best response. Where else should they go to? They can't go to the government. Who should they go to? Where should they go to? Please, can you tell our younger audience where they should go to and how they should undo majority of this, in fact, the major challenges that women are passing, are going through, rather, in the maritime industry, as you mentioned? Please, can you unmute your mic? Okay.
Okay. So you hear me well?
Yes, right now we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yes, I will start by to replay for the challenges, and we know all challenges about maritime sector. I explained also there are socio-economic challenges, which is very important. Socio-economic challenges exist at all time, but to different degrees in all our society. Maritime women need to succeed in both their professional and personal life. And for today in maritime sector, we have, as I explained before, we have to know what women in maritime are doing for women. We can found several association and initiative, and here in Senegal we put in place some initiative is to explain a lot of about maritime education, about the career in maritime space, and to help young people in general to know all about maritime sector. It's our aim, and also we work with Wimoka because I'm a focal point in Wimoka in Senegal. We work for this, and also we work for companies, some companies to help in order to consider creating more conducive working environment for women and to support them in achieving a great work-life balance. Also, it's important because we say when women choose to value her career progression should not allow also opportunity to put her down by saying that she is not capable. Yes, it's my opinion for this.
Thank you very much. So the next question is going to be going to Mrs. Chizoba Inka. Ma, we have a special question from Avodia Mba, one of our audience, and she said, what are the physical, psychological, and professional consequences for women working on board ships? And Ma, would love to have you um, answer this particular question to our honorable audience. Thank you. So I'm going to throw up the question again. This question is to Mrs. Chizoba. Can you hear me, Ma?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello? Okay, the question
I can
is,
hear you.
what are the physical, psychological, and professional consequences for women working on board ships?
Well, this question is very critical because most of the time, the women that are on board ships and they don't have any bed space, women who have to share their bed space with the men, women who have to face various unpalatable conditions just to keep their job. Psychologically, it affects their profession. That type of woman cannot come out to counsel another woman to come and join the profession. That type of woman will not be the best colleague. That type of woman will not be the best spouse when she gets off the vessel. So the physical and the psychological issue that the conditions, especially when it comes to rape, when it comes to sexual abuse, when it comes to bullying, when it comes to non-inclusion in training, when it comes to this kind of stereotype, the physical and psychological consequences is very deep. It is deep. It indeed can lead to depression. So I believe that the government should continue to speak up through International Labour Organization, IMO. The government in Africa should continue to speak up and develop sanctions and penalty that will be in line to address such matters on board the vessels, matters of sexual abuse, matters of bullying, matters of stereotype, matters of stigmatization, matters of lack of training. There should be sanctions and penalties in place to deal with things like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ma. I'm going to throw this question open. Do we actually think that more policies should be made to support women, especially women on board ships? Because the physical trauma that women go through, professional consequences, the psychological consequences in the job is, I think, is too much for a woman, but it doesn't still rule out the fact that women should not be there in the industry. So I want to ask, and I want to know, and our audience also want to know, should there be more policies in favor of women on board ship or seafarers in the maritime industry?
Who are you
Mr.
directing
Bima,
this
is that
question?
question?
Okay, the question is open. It's open.
Oh, okay. Can I start?
Okay.
Yes, as I say, I should policymakers should consider creating a more conducive working environment for women. Yeah, because for some type of ships, it's very important, like fishing boat. Fishing boat is very important. Women cannot be there, and there are another, as she said, for some boat ship also, sexual harassment and all this is a problem for women. They need to consider this.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Okay, the next question is to Mrs. Stowing. You said something very spectacular in your presentation, and I remember one time I was working in a particular port, and there was no toilet for women in that port. Yes, in that port. So every time I would want to ease myself, it was usually struggle. I kept complaining to my organization until I was particularly moved to the head office. So women, the industry, I think that the industry have not totally accepted women in every area. So there are women that are going through a lot. So in that particular port, men could just ease themselves anywhere around the port, and I'll be like, what is going on here? I'm a woman and I'm standing here, and there's a man in front of me easing himself somewhere ahead, and it wasn't just funny. So this question is to Mrs. Stoying. What more do you think we can do we as women can do, because you said something about support. Mrs. Chizoba also said something about support. What else do you think we can do to support women in the industry in order to help other women in the industry have the interest, the cultural interest in the industry, because we're looking out to educating more people in the industry, women that will stay, women that will not run away. What else do you think we can do? We have had like in ENN, there's a crèche in ENN, Nigerian ports, yeah, around Lagos, Apapa port. There's a crèche there. Just so what else do you think can be done? And should every port or shouldn't every port implement these things or not? Please, can you tell us?
Thank you, Hobina. The essence of the presentation is to tackle challenges, is for us to deliberate upon challenges, which we have been doing. The issue of no access to toilet for women in the port, I think it has been gradually dealt with now, not absolutely. Even I could remember vividly some months back, Women Nigeria, we did corporate social responsibility by giving some women mobile toilets. When we noticed the same error you made mention, and for the issue of women training women, we can't erase that. Women has to empower women. Myself, as little as my organization is, as little as my clearing firm is, I have some women I mentor. I have women I used to tell them, you don't do it that way. If you do it that way, men will look down on you. If you are wearing a green lipstick, a green hair all the time, it doesn't portray you as a woman of substance. So dealing with women, we ourselves we understand that it's not easy to deal with a woman. A woman understands that it's not even easy to deal with a co-woman. But at the same time, as we move on, as we get into some ages in life, we get matured, we understand life. At our stage now, I think we are really doing more of mentoring, and which I think we will do. We will spend the upcoming ones, the ones that are there, the need want to collaboration. We work hand to hand in terms of teaching, in terms of training, in terms of correcting politely and all of that. And if all of this is done, I'm telling you, we will get there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for this. Thank you for your response. I want to especially thank all of our panelists, and we can see a display of one of our audience. It would be great to get more women in oil and gas, but how could or who could manage, right? Who could manage to make it happen? Ma, that question was actually thrown to Mrs. Tosa. Ma, they want to know who could make this happen. Thank you very much to the audience. Ma, we're going to have you respond to her.
Yes. Thank you very much, Evie, for that wonderful question. Who will make it happen? Let us start by saying that the woman who wants to enter the oil and gas industry is the first person to make it happen. Why do I say that? You have to, as a woman working either in the maritime or in the oil and gas industry, you have to be deliberate in your activities and your intentions. So a person who wants to enter the oil and gas industry has to decide that they actually want to enter that industry. And the first thing to decide is, what aspect of the industry do you want to enter? Do you want to supply vessels to the oil and gas industry? Do you want to supply? Do you want to work in their offices? So if you define what you want, the first thing is, do you have the relevant education? If you do not, then you get the relevant education. Now, assuming that you have the relevant education, have you served in the industry before? Because it's important to have some kind of tutelage to start with. We can all wish to work somewhere, but it is not true that because you wish to work there, you are going to be able to work there. No. You have to make an effort to do some kind of pupillage somewhere. And that's where, in fact, that's where the issue of mentoring and somebody showing you the way comes. For example, if you want to work in the oil and gas industry as a woman, one of the first things that you do, this is, I'm assuming now that you have settled the issue of training. You are trained, you are qualified, you have done your youth service if you are in Nigeria. So the first thing to do is, who are the women working in this industry? Do you know them? Now, if you don't know them, how will you get to knowing them? One of the first steps may be, why don't I join any of the women's association? WIMOCA, WISTA, WIMA, WILAT. Why don't I join any of those associations? Because when you do, you have easier access to many of these women than if you just go knocking on their doors. So you must define the access that you want to use in getting into the women that would help you. Because most often when you tell these women, any of the women in leadership to help you, they would bring out their phones and make the contact for you. It's as easy as that. At least I know that happens a lot in Nigeria. The women are there ready to help. So the important thing is, identify the women who are in that area and then go to them. If you can't go to them directly, identify any of the women's associations in which they are members, and you can use those women's associations to access them. So in this industry, success mostly is because you are not an island. Everybody is helped by somebody. Everybody is introduced by somebody. And so the thing is to find that person who will introduce you, and find it in the easy way. And the easy way is to get another woman to help you. I think that's it.
Wow. Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you so much, Ma, for the response. Thank you. Thank you very much. We hope your question was answered to, yeah, to our audience, Moyo. We hope your question was answered. So back to our audience. Women are indeed going through a lot. We're not overruling, or we are not ruling the fact that women are not needed in the industry, despite the challenges that women are going through in the industry. I have my own personal experiences, and I know that continuity is progress. If you are determined, nothing should be able to pull you out of the industry. If you are determined and you know that you have a call in the industry, you should stay put. This response is actually to the younger women. I'm young and I know that mentoring is what I'm supporting my interest with. I've virtually made a lot of people my mentors without them even knowing. So I just go to the back and just start following them, watch everything they do. Majority of the women here are my mentors. Like majority of the people I want to even relate with, they are my mentors. And if you're a younger generation and you're listening to this program, please know that what will keep you stable in the industry is getting other people to mentor you in the industry. Thank you so much to all of our panelists. Thank you so much for this beautiful event. And to the men out there, please be our support. Please be our support. Please know that we are wives, we are daughters, and we are mothers. And we want to stay in the industry. If we have your support, it will be fantastic. To the organizers of this show and to our sponsors, I want to say a special thank you. And I want to say that without you, we won't be here. To our honorable panelists, thank you so much, Ma. Thank you so much, Ma. Mrs. Tosa, thank you, Ma, for having to come on the show and teach us a lot. Thank you, Mrs. Chizoba. Thank you, Ma, for teaching us so much with this detailed information. Thank you so much, Mrs. Stoyin. Thank you very much, Mrs. Awa. Thank you very much, to everyone on the show. Thank you for being here. Oh boy.
I want to take.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
I want to take a screenshot.
A picture? A picture. Miss you, dear Tosan.
Ah, bonjour, ça va?
Ça va? Comment tu vas?
Très bien, merci, très bien, merci. Dakar me manque trop. Dakar me manque
Dakar,
trop.
vous allez bientôt revenir à Dakar. Vous allez bientôt revenir à Dakar.
Oui. C'est bien, c'est bien, c'est bien. C'est bien.
Oui.
C'est bien. Tout va bien.
Ouais.
Bien. Je suis très heureuse de faire partie de cette réunion parce que, oui, chaque fois, j'ai vu toutes les choses concernant maritime Africa et
oui.
Moi, je suis contente.
Ah, merci beaucoup. C'est comme ça, au fait.
Oui.
On doit vraiment travailler pour aider les femmes dans le secteur.
Oui, c'est ça, c'est vrai.
Okay, Carlos is here.
Okay, ladies, we had a problem with Obima once more, but I think that we are ending this program. We have only one more question to close this webinar. Mr. Evodie Mbas said, is a pregnant woman allowed to board a ship to perform her duty? If so, up to how many months of pregnancy? So I don't know who among you, according to her profile, can answer this question. Is a pregnant woman allowed to board a ship to perform her duties? If so, up to how many months of pregnancy? Who want to answer this question? Hawa? Oh, okay. Mrs.
No,
Tosa?
yes,
Oh.
yes. In my part in Senegal, we don't have a lot of problem about this question because women are free to take decision to be on board or to be not on board. It's women who decide. And even if you are not going at sea, your salary is the same. Huh?
Okay, thank you very much,
Yeah.
Awa, for this answer. Yes, who else? Can we have an answer from Nigeria? What is going on over there when a woman is pregnant?
Okay,
I
can
think
I
that,
come in?
okay,
Can
please.
I come in?
Yeah.
Okay. There are maternity rights for women on board the vessel. For seafarers that get pregnant on board the vessel, for each vessel there is maternity rights. International Labour Organization also has a policy for women that get pregnant seafarers. The national flag also have their own policies that is very unique to the particular state on maternity leave or women that get pregnant working on board the vessel. The flag, all the flags, according to even if it's a national flag or even flag of convenience, any type of flag, there is a policy in place for women that work on board vessel so as to reduce discrimination of women or any form of biases that has to do with women that are on board the vessel. So it is done in a way that it will not discourage the women that have fled for this vessel. And we luckily we have a barrister in our midst, which is Tosan, can also throw more light on this aspect. Thank you.
Okay. Let me say in practice, and also in the law, women are not prevented from going onto the vessel because they are pregnant. No, they are not. They can go on board the vessel, but in practice, what happens is that you must realize that the nature of working on board the vessel involves climbing up and down, up and down. So in the first trimester of the pregnancy, most often, even the women themselves, they would decide that it's probably dangerous because what every woman wants to have is a live baby. It's not only the experience of the pregnancy, but to be able to bring forth a live child at the end of it. So the first 3 months of the pregnancy is usually very, very, very sensitive. And because of that, it is not advised that the women go up and down and all that. And I think that this is an important point to note in understanding the practicality of women working on board, and the fact that companies must not take it as a punishment when they engage women. You know, in one of these presentations, it was Tony. During Tony's presentation, she said sometimes some women are asked, are you getting married soon? Because they're suspecting if she gets married, she's going to get pregnant. And this question will arise. Will she be allowed? Will she go to sea? Will she not? Will she work on the vessel? Will she not? These are they ask this because they are really economic decisions. So the answer to the question is no. There's no legal barrier preventing women from going on board the vessel if they are pregnant. But in practice, most often they do not continue on board when they are pregnant.
Yeah.
So we all
We can't
agree
hear
on
you.
clear guidelines.
Okay. Uh, I really want to apologize for the break in transmission. My verse just fell. Okay.
No
That was
problem.
a beautiful answer, Ma. Yes, I think it's a bit dangerous for women to, without any policy, even if there is no there is the government is not against it. Like you said, Ma, every woman wants a living child, not the otherwise. Okay, we should be rounding up this broadcast. It's really been a long one, but very impactful one. We're gonna start from Mrs. Stone. Please, can you throw to the audience what your last advice, your last statement? What are you telling the audience? Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, my last word and my advice to the audience is to get there, you need someone to mentor you. You have to be a mentee to somebody. And these people, even to every human being, if you want somebody to teach you something, or if you want someone to learn to open up to you how it's been done, you have to be submissive, you have to be truthful, you have to show ready to learn. If all these are being done, your role model or your mentor will be motivated and incentivized to do more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So let's get on to Mrs. Awa. Now, please, can you tell our audience what your advice would be?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Uh, the for maritime women, the career progression is challenging, very challenging. We know this. What we will take to focus on visibility to help all women. Women choose to value her career progression should not allow other, as I say, the opportunity to put her down by saying that she is not capable. And we should also follow IMO, who invite women in maritime to share how the power of networking is important and can help. Thank you.
And next is to Mrs. Chizoba. Ma, please, can you tell us what your advice is to the younger generation as a mentor to a
Okay, I
lot of
must thank
young
you.
people in Nigeria and to Africa? Please, can you tell us what your last advice would be or is?
Obi, I must thank you most kindly for bringing me on this platform and all these women on the platform who will continue to keep lending our voice to accelerate the achievements of women. And for my last shot to be on for the continental women that are in the maritime sector, don't give up. It is possible. It is possible. It doesn't matter the language you speak, whether you're francophone, whether you're anglophone.
Yeah.
Don't give up. Continue to work. You need to be resilient. You need to
Yes.
take the steps that my sister Tosan has spoken about. You must identify firstly within yourself what you need to do. If you're an entrepreneur, what you need to do. If you require capacity, training, what you need to do. If you're already in the sector working, what you need to do. Continuous personal development is very critical. It is germane that we continue to upscale your skills. Do not relax. It is possible for you to be in that boardroom if you are recognized as someone that has something to bring to the table. You will not be there when committees are being constituted before your invitation. Across Africa, we can take a look at the role models, some of them of which Madam Tosa has mentioned. We can, apply to belong to most of these associations that having a coalition now of all the women organizations to have one voice in speaking. Women will have an agenda. This agenda must succeed, but it has to succeed when we adequately equip ourselves with the requisite knowledge, with the requisite skills, with the requisite competencies that we need. The agenda for us to be part or to be visible in the system must be achieved if we continue to advance our cause when it comes to training, when it comes to mentorship, when it comes to coaching. Another thing I would like to say as a parting shot is this. Women must begin to love themselves. Women must begin not to work in silos. Women must stop working as groups, but continue to work as team. A team is different from a group. You do not take out the shine from yourself when you lend your voice to a team's work. You do not want the credit to go to you because you're working in a team. If you find yourself working in a team of women, we must be able to wear it, put it on ourselves to become that woman that is supporting another woman to succeed. We must be able to remove the stigma of the stereotype of that women cannot work together. Of course, women can work together. Women can support one another. Women, we are not jealous of one another. Women, we are not envious of one another. We must take deliberate steps to show this in our attitude, in our relationships, in our communication, through respect, through working as a team, through eschewing any form of silo mentality, through not wanting to outshine your mate. So when we take these deliberate steps, our agenda will be met. The agenda that we want to show to the men to open the doors for us, to give us a level playing ground, to allow us to come to the boardroom, they will see the women as being together. And once there is unity amongst the women and women are seen as working together, the men will of course know that this kind of serious discussion where they need to discuss very serious matters that have to advance the cause of the sector across the continent, that this particular matter, we need this particular woman to be part of it. And again, the older women in the industry, even if it's informal mentorship, we need to identify some of the young ones to mentor. Let us stop this attitude of trying to intimidate the younger ones by, threatening them here and there. No threats. Let us take the deliberate steps. When we see a younger woman trying to come up, please, we have had huge experiences in the industry. Let us open our arms, welcome them, tell them their mistakes, embrace them, tell them next time this is how you will need to do it. That way, that younger woman will not be afraid to venture. Thank you. I believe with this, I have made my points clear. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Ma. And we're going to have our next panelist, Mrs. Tosam, as a global mentor. Ma, can you give us your final advice to the younger
Thank
generation
you.
like Mrs. Chidaba did and the rest of our panelists? Yes, Ma. We
Yes,
want to hear from
yes,
you, Ma.
yes. Yes, I like that title, Global Mentor, and I'm very honored to be called a Global Mentor. But
Yeah.
Chizoba and Tony and Awa have already nailed it. I agree
Mm,
with everything that you have said, but I'd just like to add something and also give an example on this issue of mentorship. You can see, you heard
mm.
how Chizoba nailed it and how Tony
Everybody.
also nailed
Yes.
the issue of mentorship. Now, it is so important. Why is it so important? Simply because no human being is an island, period.
Yes,
Plus,
Ma.
the fact that
Mm.
human beings are relational. That's how God created the world. We all have to be in a relationship. Even if you're a baby is always in a relationship. And so, as an adult working too, you have to be in a relationship. Now, I want to say something interesting about mentorship. Now, mentorship, the mentee wants to learn something from the mentor. That's how it works. And so it is for the mentee to draw out something from the mentor. It is not the other way around. The mentor has already reached there and she has other things to do. The mentee is the one who is aspiring. And so, because of that, the mentee must not be tired of asking questions, of bothering the mentor. Yes, you have to bother them. I say this because at the Lagos International Maritime Week, we match mentors and mentees. And it was very interesting that lately I met one of the mentees and I asked, how did the mentorship go? And she said, oh, it went very well, but it didn't end very well. And I said, why? She said, because after a while, I felt that I was bothering the mentor because anytime I called her, she appeared not to have the time and all that. And I was sad about that. It shouldn't be like that. You are trying to learn. The mentee is the one that is trying to learn. So long as you have focused, zeroed on somebody to be your mentor, or you have been given a mentor in an organization like Lagos International Maritime Week in Wimoka or Wista, then it is for you, even if the mentor appears busy, because most of them are busy, you have to organize yourself in a way that you can meet the mentor when the mentor is less busy. You can organize yourself to find something that you can do for the mentor because you want that relationship. And it is not for you to give up and say, oh, she appears not to have the time. Of course, she's a busy woman, but you can draw that time out. So that's what I want to tell mentees. One, it is for you to draw out the virtue from the mentor. It's not the other way around. It is not the other way around. And I'll give a second example. I was speaking in Durban, Durban, South Africa, at a WISTA conference many years ago. And after I finished speaking, there was a young lady who stood beside me. And she said to me, I want you to be my mentor. And I said to her, I am from Nigeria, and being a mentor is a serious job. And she said, well, I want you to be my mentor. And I said, okay, if I have to be your mentor, I have to know where you are coming from. So after the conference, the conference was in Durban. After the conference, I went with her to her town, which was in Richards Bay, another place entirely. And I was very touched about the way she was introducing me to her parents, her friends, and all that. And so anytime I had business to go to South Africa, I always made a detour to get to Durban and go to Richards Bay and see her. Then I was very touched. In one of those trips, I was in Durban, and she was taking me from offices to offices. She was saying, I have something to do here, blah, blah, blah. And we'll go to this office. And she used to say, this is my mentor. She has come all the way from Nigeria to visit me. And she was saying that to everyone. And when we were together, I asked her, why are you saying this? She said to me, because all those people I was introducing you to, I have asked them before to be my mentors, and some of them said no. So we must be sensitive about these things. If someone's courage to say they like your example, and so they want you to be their mentor, you should be gracious enough to accept and to take on that responsibility. Fortunately, in Nigeria, well, so far as I know, we haven't had such experiences. At least I don't know that. I mean, I was very shocked by my South African mentee who told me that somebody actually said to her no. And she took me to all those people, and she used to say, this is my mentor that has come all the way from Nigeria, I was bragging about it. And I was very touched by that example. And I used that to educate myself and other people that mentorship is a big work. It's a big work. So the mentor has to be awake to the responsibility, and the mentee has to understand that it is her job to draw out from the mentor. You have to draw out. It is not that the mentor will just give you. No, you draw it out. That's the relationship. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you so much, Ma. Woo! It has really been an exciting time. It's over 2 hours that we've been on this show, and it's been from one study to another. My eyes have been open to a lot of things. Wow, wow. Oh, and I want to say thank you again. I can't emphasize how I feel right now, but I want to really say thank you to everyone on this platform, every one of our panelists. Thank you so much, Ma. Ma, you are indeed Mrs. Toaster. Ma, you're indeed um, a global expert
Mentor, I
and
think that's
mentor. Mrs.
true.
Chizoba, you are indeed a global mentor and expert. Thank you so much, Ma, for having to give us this opportunity. Thank you, Mrs. Awa. You're indeed a global expert and mentor. Thank you so much. Mrs. Story, you are indeed a global expert and mentor, and everyone is excited about all that you have put on this platform today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And to Maritime Africa, thank you so much for being consistent about this show. And thank you for putting out the women in Africa
Yes.
to this podium and to this platform. And we are excited, we are appreciative. We want to say thank you to our audience also. Thank you to everyone that asked questions. Thank you so much. And we will be coming to the end of this show. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Picture. Let's pick
So I
the
want to
picture.
say goodbye to our audience. Let's say goodbye to our audience. As we're looking forward to
Yeah.
having another of this kind of
Okay,
show.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. But the picture,
Yes.
we don't take picture. We don't take the picture.
Well, I've taken
We
the
don't take the
picture.
picture. Okay.
Yes, we should take it.
I'll take the picture. Well,
Okay, we're taking a picture right now. After
yes.
Yeah.
three, 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's my post. Okay, it was a fantastic one.
Okay.
I'm going to
Well,
screenshot so I'll have a good memory. Yes, thank you
okay.
very much, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Maritime
Thank
Africa
you.
can
God
put us on backstage so we can talk